SCORE Northeast Wisconsin and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biztalk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences. From starting to sustaining growth, learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you miss anything, you can catch the Biztalk podcast at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biztalk on WHBY.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Biz Talk with SCORE here on WHBY. My name is Mary Rhode, and joining me this morning for another great episode is Rick Sense. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, Mary. How you doing?
Doing fabulous. I'm excited to talk with our guests here today. We are thrilled to be joined by Jason Schulist, Executive Director of the Fox Valley Data Exchange. And along with him will be Tammy, Geenen, Vice President of Community Engagement for the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region. Welcome and good morning to both of you.
Thank you. Nice to be on the program.
Good morning.
All right. Well, let's jump into it here and let's introduce folks to the Fox Valley Data Exchange in case they may not be familiar. So, Jason, do you want to kind of give us just a brief overview of what the Fox Valley Data Exchange is?
Sure. The Fox Valley Data Exchange is a nonprofit that formed in May of 2023 with the point of becoming a one-stop shop for community data needs. So we really serve as a centralized resource for community data. And we provide some research, some analysis, and interpretation of trends. There's a long history of kind of working with data and making a difference in this community. And Tammy has been involved in that for a longer stretch. And this is kind of the next iteration of how we can bring data together to make it easy to make decisions in our community.
That's fabulous. I am a big data nerd myself and I live and breathe it every single day in my normal job in the marketing world. So very much appreciate individuals like yourself who are out there seeking more data and providing it to the community. It's so valuable. So if you want to jump in here, Tammy, and there's always a story behind the story, right, with everything. And so can you give us a little bit of kind of what that origin story is for the Fox Valley Data Exchange?
Happy to do that. As Jason mentioned, I've been involved in some of these community data initiative types of projects going all the way back to 2001 when the Fox Cities Life study was launched, and LIFE stood for leading indicators for excellence in the community. And that took a look at all aspects of community life and just how are we doing as a Fox Valley community, Fox Cities region as well. And there was great work that was done when that launched in 2001. And periodically providing updates to that data, using the data to help make decisions that led to the development of some new community initiatives or services in the community. But one of the challenges over time became trying to keep the information updated and as current as possible. And as the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region and United Way Fox Cities, we're always in kind of that co-leadership role for making sure that information in the life study was not only updated but also elevated in the community. We just found some challenges with that. And I would say a little bit before COVID in 2020, we decided that it was time to look at another way of structuring the life study, getting some new partners involved, and really looking at it as an opportunity to evolve the life study to what's next with a very specific eye toward making sure we were able to access data and have it more regularly updated. And so that's eventually what led to the creation of the Fox Valley Data Exchange, as Jason was describing. And we've continued to have many good partners involved. But the Fox Cities Life Study, which was more focused on the Fox Cities municipalities primarily, now with the Data Exchange, has grown into focusing on the Tri-County area, including Calumet, Outagamie, and Winnebago counties.
So you mentioned the life study. Can you maybe give listeners, that really kind of kept the finger on the pulse of the community, the life study program, which and it did a great job, I think, in representing what was happening and going on in our communities. Can you talk with listeners about how you guys now are keeping the finger on the pulse of the community? You know, what measurements, what vital conditions are you tracking in the actual process going forward with the data exchange?
Yeah. So to also kind of add on to the history too, and how we got to the vital conditions. I was working as a vice president at Bolt, kind of doing continuous improvement transformation work. But I had also been on the board of the United Way and noticed how hard it was to get data and how hard it was to find the data. And so what we tried to do was we got the community together to figure out what the community wanted. And that's where, as Tammy had said, we focused on all three counties. But we also wanted I'll call it bells and whistles, but I mean charts and be able to look at things by geography and be able to look at things over trend and over time. And we had also, during that time, had worked around creating a community vision for the Fox Cities area, and we had kind of stepped into this concept of measuring well-being and how could we understand whether we are thriving, whether we're struggling, or whether we are suffering as a community and as individuals, and so on and so forth. And this is the same work as the happiness report. So you maybe have seen, all the people in the Nordic region seem to be happy for some reason, and then other places are less happy. Well, we were using the same survey questions for understanding that. And what we found is working with a foundation called the Ripple Foundation outside of our area. They had created a model around the 7 vital conditions for well-being. So the hypothesis is if you work on these 7 vital conditions, you will improve your well-being score overall. And they have a bunch of modeling they do and do that. But what we decided to do is also align all of our data alongside these 7 vital conditions for well-being. By doing that, we could stay aligned with the national framework, but then also be a leader in helping to understand how we do the work we need to do in our communities related to the vital conditions and related to well-being.
So as you look at as you look at those, what are the ones that jump out at you as that kind of stand out that are really leading indicators to the community as far as the happiness side of things?
Yeah. So I can give you the 7 vital conditions for well-being and kind of tell you which ones we have seen we think make a pretty big impact in our community. So first one is basic needs for health and safety. So if you think about how we do, the general health that we have, this is Mental Health Month. Mental health is one of the basic needs for health and safety that we focus on. Humane housing. You've probably heard a lot about housing in our area and the lack of affordable housing and the lack of housing units as a whole. If we don't have humane housing, it's really hard for everybody to be happy in our community. Meaningful work and wealth. How do we have economic prosperity in our community? How do we know whether we can hit our living wage? And what is that living wage? And how can we ensure that people in our community can have a living wage? So there's lots of different ways to measure that we can look at. Lifelong learning is another one. So it's not just are you ready for kindergarten, but is it all the way to what do you do after you've graduated from college, and how do we continue to have a lifelong learning approach? Reliable transportation. So do we have the transportation we need to get around our community? Are we walkable? Do we have good bike paths, things of that nature? Thriving natural world. So that's all about our environment. Do we have good air? Do we have good water quality? And then finally, the one that we found both in taking surveys as well as in this model, we call it a twofer. So it's twice as important, and it's belonging and civic muscle. And so do we feel like we belong to our community, and do we take action and work our civic action to make a difference in our community. And so when you look at all of the information, belonging, civic muscle, and basic needs for health and safety have showed up as the two things that hinder our ability to thrive and also enhance our ability to thrive. So if you look at it, both the positive and negative side, those are the two to focus on. Humane housing is pretty close behind that as an issue to work on.
And if I could jump in, Jason, as you're describing those vital conditions, and I remember some of the work or the workshops that we would do, even with Ripple Foundation and some other members of the community, and trying to take a look at all of these different vital conditions. I remember one exercise where the visual representation had belonging and civic muscle in the center, and then all of the other 6 vital conditions were all connected around it. And so for me, that was a really helpful and striking visual, and a great reminder I still have with me today, and just how that is at the center of the vital conditions.
As we have a website at fvdex.org, on our front page, you'll see this vital conditions framework right on that page.
Okay.
Yeah, I really love how you broke these out into these seven areas. These are things that are truly community changing, life changing for some, to really focus in on some of these that really can speak to a lot of different things that a lot of different organizations are trying to accomplish, right, throughout the community. So certainly efforts like this take many, many hands, right, and is a heavy lift at times. So can you describe to us a little bit kind of how your organization is structured? Who's all involved, and how does the work truly get done?
Yes. So we have one employee, and that is myself, related to the Fox Valley Data Exchange. Our goal is to try to be as most cost effective as possible for our community. The idea is we create a free resource for the entire community to use. So if you go to Fox Valley, the fvdex.org, which is the Fox Valley Data Exchange's website, it's all free. And you can see everything out there for free. So data is free, but it's not free to make data free. So we have we create a nonprofit that would allow us to be kind of neutral to all the parties that are in the community, and to create a place where we can find good, reliable, clean data that people can use to make decisions. So the way we started this entire process is we asked the community what they wanted for a data exchange. So there are about 40 of these data exchanges around the United States. One of them is in Milwaukee. It's called Data You Can Use. So we went and benchmarked all these various data exchanges, and then asked the community, what do you want? And that's where we got to 3 counties. They wanted charts. They wanted easily downloadable data. They wanted to use the vital conditions framework as a way to organize the data. But it was 40 people, and that was back during COVID. So we were doing Zoom calls to try to facilitate how people wanted to figure out what Tammy would affectionately call a minimal viable product, or the ability to create, something that's the first case in the first set. So we did that, and we had to find a third-party provider to kind of organize and structure our data. We didn't have to, but we found that it was more expensive and more cost-effective. But we had a team of about 12 people that were in a room trying to figure out which technology to use. Now, we have what we call action advisory teams. So we currently have 30 volunteers that work with the Fox Valley Data Exchange. Some are on the board, like Tammy. Some are on a communications committee that helps us to look at our social media and look at our communication plan. And another, what we call the data frameworks and I guess we'll call it the data frameworks group, action advisory committee and structure group. So there's a group of people like you, Mary, who are really nerdy into data and like to go structure data and figure out how to organize it. And then we have a group that's kind of advocates on behalf of our community. So we have 8 different stakeholder groups across the 3 counties, and they come together and say, we'd really like to add this data into the data exchange, or we'd really like to focus on this area of data in the vital conditions. And so we listen to the community and let the community make the decisions to drive our work. But we do most of that work as volunteers.
That's great. That's got to be great to have that continual and constant feedback to truly better the product that you're outputting, right?
Yes.
Tammy, what is the role that certainly yourself, I know Jason mentioned you're on the board, but additional to that, what role do you play in and especially the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region?
Yeah, my role at the Community Foundation is as Vice President of Community Engagement, which encompasses community initiatives, grant-making programs, and has also included some communications and marketing work too. I've been with the foundation for 26 years and bring this breadth of all that experience not only to my role within the foundation and in the community, but related to this specific project, just bring a lot of different lenses to it. So really serving, number one, on the board of directors, as Jason mentioned, with 7 other people that represent a variety of aspects of sectors across the 3 counties. And so we help with some of that kind of organizational and operational kind of structure, support for Jason as the executive director, do the strategic planning. And then I also work closely with the communications committee that Jason mentioned. Even though I love data, I always feel like I know the least about data in the room when I get together with that data committee. They are amazing, super smart volunteers, and I learn every time I'm together with them. But it's really interesting, again, in that role of looking at communications and data and the structure of the organization, how to also bring it back around to the people and the stories throughout the region, and what are they truly experiencing and living, and how do you lift up and tell those stories in ways that where you start with that solid data and then build and grow from there, and trying to lift up and uncover challenges and opportunities to improve life in the community for everyone.
All right. We've come to the point where we're going to take our first break this morning. You're listening to Biztalk on WHBY, and we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Biztalk with Score on WHBY. I'm Rick Sense, along with Mary Rhode today. And we are talking with our friends at the Fox Valley Data Exchange, Jason Schulist, who's Executive Director, and Tammy Geenen, who's Vice President of Community Engagement for the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region, and a board member of the Fox Valley Data Exchange. But before we get back to that conversation, I'd just like to take a moment to talk to you and give you a little bit more information about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin. SCORE Northeast Wisconsin serves an 18-county area in northeast Wisconsin and also the county of Menominee in Michigan. We have over 50 volunteers, each an expert in their field, and they offer entrepreneurs no-cost and confidential mentoring. Those areas of expertise include IT, social media, marketing, cash flow, accounting, strategic planning, workflow, human resources, retail, best practices, and many, many others. To register or for a no-cost, a confidential mentoring session, and or to learn more about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin, please visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. You can learn more about how the SCORE chapter can assist you with starting and or growing your business, and you can complete an application for a mentoring session. Simply complete the online form and submit it to SCORE. Within a few days, a SCORE mentor will be contacting you to set up a meeting. Remember, SCORE is no cost and offers experts who can offer you assistance in many different areas. To get started, visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And to support small business people, SCORE Northeast Wisconsin is always looking for new mentors. If you have experience that you would like to share with others, we would love to talk to you. We welcome volunteers with experience in all aspects of business. Small business owners need your help, and your experience can make a real difference in their success. Go to score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. Click on the volunteer button and fill out the short application, and we'll get back to you to explain more. So thanks again for joining us on Biztalk, and I'll turn the show over to you, Mary.
Great. Thanks so much, Rick. Jason and Tammy, in the previous segment, we touched a little bit on some of the stories that come from this data. Certainly, it's great to have numbers on a page and charts on a page, but how do you truly tell the story behind those charts and numbers, right? And so let's dig in a little bit. Let's talk about some of the organizations that utilize the data, and let's dive a little deeper into one of those specific stories.
Sounds good. I think since May is Mental Health Awareness Month, it's a great opportunity to take a look at this aspect of quality of life in the community. This is a topic that comes up over and over as being a priority area in the community. And I think all of us, myself included, can think of whether it's within our own families or within our friends, just people that have struggled with their mental health and have needed to access resources and to really understand how to get plugged into the community. So there's an effort underway for our public health systems and our healthcare or public health departments rather, and healthcare systems to work together on implementing some community health improvement plans. And the two top topic areas that they're focusing on include mental health and also belonging, and that civic muscle that was tied to that, as mentioned, is a vital condition. But belonging and mental health are really a high focus for those efforts. And so in order to think about what happens when you start to bring sector representatives together from all over the community to start to dig in and understand what's happening in the community, what are our trends, you need to have really good data sources to be able to inform decisions that are going to happen in those areas, and how to listen to the stories of the people with lived experience in the community, and then tying that together with data. And Jason, I'll let you pick it up from there and how to tie the work of the data exchange as some of these conversations and collaborative efforts are happening to focus on mental health.
Yeah, so the Fox Valley Data Exchange has been a supporter and a partner in this tri-county effort to work on a health care and health improvement plan. And we find we have a few sources about mental health in the Fox Valley Data Exchange website. So if you're looking at anything from binge drinking to drug overdose mortality to people who actually measure their poor self-reported mental health, you can find out in detail, both geographically and in some slicing and dicing, who is doing well and who might be struggling related to their mental health. And so that group also just recently did a survey of the Tri-County to understand the wellness, happiness, but also have questions around a sense of belonging, a sense of mental health. And then the Northeast Wisconsin Mental Health Connection also does a Mind Your Wellness survey. And currently we do not have that survey on the Fox Valley Data Exchange, but we will be integrating that in the near future so we can get more local data to help people understand where the gaps are and how they can address those gaps. And that's really important both for the nonprofits, it's for the foundations to understand kind of where to invest, and also for businesses to understand what needs to happen in those areas.
All right.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And certainly so timely, as you mentioned, Tammy, with it being Mental Health Awareness Month. So we're going to leave that conversation where it is, but we'll pick it back up here in the next segment. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be back after a short commercial break.
Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY. I'm Rick Sense along with Mary Rhode this morning, and we are talking with folks from Fox Valley Data Exchange, Jason Schulist, who's the executive director, and Tammy Geenen, who is a member of the board and also is vice president of community engagement for the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region. It's been a very interesting discussion so far. But I always have that sense of somebody from Missouri is listening in and just wanting to understand this idea of So why is this necessary? Why does there need to be a Fox Valley data exchange?
Yes, I can tell you about that a little bit. One, when we originally were picking at this problem, what we realized is that we realized in the Fox cities, about 27 people were looking and scrounging around for data in that area alone. It wasn't all three counties, and we're like, well, could we make it easier and make it simpler for people to find things and to use it and not spend all this time scrounging around for data? As a matter of fact, I was consulted to go find data on databases with a company in the local area, which now you could just get for free on here. So I guess I took myself out of one job and brought myself into another. But what we've realized is there are 8 different kind of stakeholder groups, maybe 9 if you count the citizen that wants to be from Missouri or from anywhere to understand, why would I use this data exchange at all? One, the foundations. Foundations are trying to really allocate funds in ways that address the problems of the community. So the better we understand those problems, the better we organize those funds. The nonprofits, well, nonprofits have to go for grants, and it's really hard sometimes to get the data to demonstrate what problem they're working on, and then to create a chart. You have to go to Excel or some other place to create it. You can do one click, you get a chart exactly of what you want, and you can explain your problem really easy. But we talked about hospitals and public health. They have to do some work, by law. They have to create these community improvement plans, but they have other ways that they can use the data on the data exchange to make good decisions around health and healthcare. Governments themselves. I was actually went to talk to Grand Chute and Winnebago County in the last month, and just kind of showing them what's on the site and what they can use to help their constituents related to various demographics. Business uses this to understand, one, can we attract and retain people into our community and show kind of the strengths of our community. We have use cases that we do or videos that kind of show what the value is of the data exchange for some of these groups. And in business, the Bank of Kaukauna will be having a video coming out talking about how they can find underserved demographics to kind of look at their loan portfolio and help to create good loans for people and find that. Our education systems are using it. So we're doing work with Lawrence University and with Fox Valley Tech. We've done some work with UW-Oshkosh to try to understand both what to bring in to the community and then what are some of the gaps that they can help to serve. And then finally, faith communities. So many faith communities are trying to reimagine the space that they have, that they might have a lot more space than they actually use today. What does the community want and what does their community need in their local area? They can go to the data exchange, find some of that information, and then help them to understand how to reimagine their campus.
That's wonderful. So as someone who in my day job is one of those data scroungers that you mentioned before and is often fumbling around trying to figure out and find all the sources and all the information, your organization has made that much easier. So let's talk about fvdex.org or fvdex.org for our radio listeners, and talk about the website. Walk me through it. How can people use it and access it and get some of the information that they're searching for?
Yep. First to remind, it's a free resource for everybody. So you can download data, you can download charts, all that's free. You don't have to pay for anything. But we have 2 things. One, we have some videos and some standardized work. If people want to understand how to use the site, you can find that right on our website so that you can walk through that. We've taken the metrics and we have 120 different indicators with 414,000 data points in our system right now. And they're all aligned to these vital conditions. So if you're looking for something around housing, you can either type it right in and say, I want to look for housing, and it'll give you all the metrics we have in housing. Or you can go to the humane housing area, and then you can click on one of those metrics. It'll bring you right up to the geography, so you can see the differences between the 3 counties, between cities, between zip codes, between census tracts, which are like the smallest level that we like to focus on. And you can also see trends. So you can click a click there and you'll find the charts. You can look at bar charts or line charts or any kind of charts that you want for those that love data. We also have ability to compare areas one to another, so you can rank and see, well, how are we doing on college education in my town compared to the other towns in the 3 counties. And then finally, we have a whole tab just on the sources. So if a person wants to understand where it's coming from, they don't have to worry about that it's some just crazy website that has random data. We have all the sources on there, what table it might come from, and where you can use it. But very simple, easy click way to use the website.
So navigating it sounds easy, but what about not understanding what I'm looking for and how to figure that out? Is there a spot somewhere out there that will kind of provide me tutorials that will show me and lead me through the process of accessing the information on the data exchange?
Yep. So we have a how to use area, and that how to use area has a bunch of videos, so you can kind of walk yourself through them. And then we also have these quick reference guides. So if you're looking at a space, you can say, oh, what do I do? What does this button do? And so on and so forth. There's a quick start. So you can search any place in the area, and you can search any topic, and it'll come up. You just view the map or view the chart, and there's a one click to do that. So if you're like saying, I want to know about poverty, just type in poverty and you'll find the 7 or 8 different metrics that you might want to pick. You pick the one you like. When you go in, it'll actually describe exactly what you're talking about. So it gives you a little description on the top as well when you do that.
Since there's no cost to use it, how is the data exchange? How does the Fox Valley Data Exchange fund it? How does it exist?
Yeah. Currently the funding comes from grants. So we're grant funded. We are also in the process of working through a couple projects where we can quote unquote productize what we're doing here in our area and then sell that knowledge to other communities. So we're working on a couple projects that way right now. One with Lawrence University to kind of help us create indices for each one of the vital conditions that we can look at all the way down to the census tract level. And so that is something that other communities are interested in being able to do, and we can help them do that. But primarily right now it is a grant-based support.
And how has it been received by those other communities so far?
By the other communities related to these products, some of these are excited about that. We've benchmarked and worked with a bunch of other communities, so we all kind of know what each other are doing. And we're trying to just help and support different communities so that they can have the same functionality. This Vital Condition Index project we're doing, we'd be the only ones in the world that would have this index geography set so that we would know how is one county doing compared to the other related to housing. How is it doing related to reliable transportation? So that's unique work that we're developing that then other communities could then also take advantage of and use, and we could package that for them for a small fee.
I would think that would be incredibly valuable information as communities are continuing to evolve and grow and looking at different ways that they can exist and different things they can do as a community, as a municipality. So best of luck with that. That sounds very exciting. As SCORE focuses so much on the small businesses, supporting those small businesses, mentoring those small businesses, Tammy, what are some ways that those entrepreneurs, those brand new small businesses, how they could utilize the Fox Valley Data Exchange?
Yeah, some things that I would think would be helpful, and please, chime in and let me know if this is resonating. But even thinking about the demographic information that's available. So if someone is looking to start or expand a business, understanding, well, what do the demographics look like? What do housing starts look like? Where are there opportunities, again, to look at, depending who the target audiences are, where are those target audiences? What have the trends been? And just even kind of looking at overall economic data or community health data related to, what is in a target market or specific geographies could be very helpful. Jason, anything you would add there?
Yeah, I was thinking of, for example, we have median household income down to the census tract level. And so, depending on what, entrepreneur service might be, if it's actually direct to customer, you might be able to tune right in. We actually are on another project I was working on with a church, was trying to understand their community and kind of what the dynamics of the community were. And it was interesting because on one side of the street, they had one dynamic. On the other side of the street, there's a different dynamic. And so how that church serves their community, we looked at this kind of like flourishing desert analysis to understand where people were flourishing and not flourishing related to income, related to other things. So you could find target markets that way, I think. You might also find kind of just the costs that we have. We don't have any like discrete data related to the cost of retail or commercial space at the moment, but those are some of the things that obviously are important to a small business.
So it appears from my vantage point that this is off to a really great start, and there's been a lot of early successes. What challenges are you facing with this program so far?
Yeah, I mean, one challenge I'll say is, funding is always important. And as a nonprofit, it's important to have funding. While the data is free for our community, there's a cost to make that possible. So, our speed of local data integration. So we create a system where we can add local data and it doesn't cost us any more outside of our community. We develop it and then we can put it right up on the site. And many of the other, third-party providers, they charge you and they put you on a waiting list. Well, one of our desires is to add a data director, either part-time or full-time, that can accelerate the ability for us to put the data up on the website that's local. We're only going as fast as our volunteers. So we rally the troops, take them out for tacos from time to time and get them to go and help us get this great local data in. So it's really about the speed of us getting more and more information so that we can continue to make better decisions as a community.
Tammy, as a board member, from your perspective, being a volunteer, what kind of challenges, what kind of things are you guys looking at as a board that you're focusing on and trying to help smooth out for the organization?
Mm-hmm. I think in addition to the topic of funding and, the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region and United Way Fox Cities have been strong co-leaders in the funding space, along with our colleagues, in Oshkosh with the Community Foundation and United Way and many other corporate, partners. I think one of the things we talk about is, once people start seeing, the data exchange and how easy it is to use, how accessible it is, the information is updated as soon as new data becomes available. As other communities, other municipalities are seeing it, they're saying, hey, can we get that here? And so it's also trying to manage that growth or expansion, even from a geography perspective, and trying to say, okay, yes, and we still have some work to do to, make sure that the primary kind of goal is met in the Tri-County area, and still looking with an eye to the future. But it's a great problem to have, where you have so much positive feedback and interaction that suddenly everyone's like, we want this here. So that's something where we're always trying to be mindful of what's possible. Or back to Jason's point too about, really wanting to get a process developed for adding local data and, again, how fast volunteers can move, in some of these cases. It's a balance in that strategic direction going forward.
Certainly all that positive feedback that you've received, I'm sure just ensures that you're making such a positive impact on the communities that you serve, and that the information you're providing is needed. And it's very easy for Rick and I both to feel the passion that you both have, for the mission of the Fox Valley Data Exchange, excuse me. But what are some of the lessons that you've learned really since its inception? And also, what are some of those joys that you've personally received, as you've, continued providing this information?
I can go first. So lessons learned. One, this is the first time that I've run a nonprofit, so I'm learning a whole bunch about starting a nonprofit. For example, I remember, I think the first time, I kind of had left corporation, and I'm like, okay, Tammy, I'm ready to start. And she's like, so do you have any money? I'm like, oh, I guess I got to go raise some money for that. So, so just learning that whole process and how it works from the nonprofit. And I spent 30 some years in kind of corporations, in that process. So I've learned a lot that way and what needs to be done. Really, how do you engage the community? So it's really important to get as many people involved and engaged, many stakeholders across all three communities. So we're not just Fox Cities, that means we're Oshkosh, we're Chilton, we're New London, we're Seymour, we're Winnebago. So we're a tri-county effort. So I've spent a lot of time learning what the different needs are of the different communities. From a joy perspective, I like innovation. And so Thrivent had this opportunity where they took their analytics team from across the nation and helped us do some projects to analyze some of our data and to make some recommendations of what data we might want to add to our add to our website. And then Lawrence University is about to do this Vital Conditions Index project. And so creating these new spaces kind of give me joy. Using my Six Sigma black belt, head, I can, have the joy of kind of playing in the data and creating things that are new.
All right. We are arrived at a time where we're going to take our third and final break this morning. It's been a pleasure having this conversation this morning. And if you have not been able to or had the time to access and check out this awesome service for the community, I encourage you to check out the Fox Valley Data Exchange's website and just kind of take a stab at some of the things that are out there that you'd like to try and learn about more as you go forward. So we'll be right back after this break, and you're listening to Biztalk with Score on WHBY. Welcome back to Biztalk with Score on WHBY this morning. Mary, Rhode, and I are talking with our friends at the Fox Valley Data Exchange. And Jason Schulist, who's the executive director, and Tammy Geenen, who's on their board, have been kind enough to spend part of their Saturday morning with us. And I just would like to, before we get back to the conversation, spend a minute talking to you and thanking our sponsors. Our sponsors and donors are who brings Biztalk with Score to you each weekend. We couldn't present Biztalk without their generous support. Thank you to Haling & Associates. Haling & Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but plan ahead, helping you minimize taxes for this year and beyond. Haling & Associates, personal connection, positive results. Thank you to Johnson Financial Group. Wherever you are in your life or the life of your business, Johnson Financial Group works with you to understand your goals, matching the right banking and wealth services to help you complete your mission. Thanks to the Business News for promoting our program in the bi-weekly business newspaper, serving Northeast Wisconsin. The paper is delivered bi-weekly and contains relevant and useful information about the business community in Northeast Wisconsin. We would also like to recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation in support of Biztalk and Score Northeast Wisconsin. So thanks again to all of our sponsors. And Jason and Tammy, I'll turn to you and just ask, how can people learn more? Where can they get more information about Fox Valley Data Exchange?
They can go to the website, fvdex.org, and there's a tab called Get Involved. And there are options listed for ways to volunteer, how to donate, to support the ongoing effort. And you can also engage with us in our social media spaces. But the first place to go is on the website to the Get Involved area and to submit your name and contact information. And Jason will be happy to connect with you.
So as we kind of wrap up our awesome conversation here today, sharing so many details about the Fox Valley Data Exchange, how incredibly valuable it is to the Tri-County area, what's next, right? There's always that question of what's on the horizon.
Yes. So two major things we're working on right now is creating this vital conditions index with Lawrence University support. And so that will be a great thing for us. We're also adding much more local data into our upcoming, into the website. So we're continuing to add local data integration. And then finally, we're planning to kind of convene again later towards the end of the year, just kind of give an update to the community. How are things going, and what's changed, and what does the community want? Because we want to make sure this is always community centered.
And just a real quick follow-up to that question, is that going to be a community event in person?
The plan is to be in person. We did a launch last October, and so we're going to be working towards getting people convened again in person, as well as they could come in on like a remote line as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again, Tammy, and thank you, Jason, for being part of the show this morning. It's certainly an interesting endeavor that's been undertaken here in our community, and we wish you all the success in the world as you see it through. Listeners, thank you again for taking the time out of your Saturday morning to listen to us here on WHBY. And if you liked what you heard today and you want to follow up and hear it again, you can certainly listen to our podcast starting on Wednesday. This will be rebroadcast. But until next week, we will let you go this weekend and enjoy your rest of your Saturday. And thanks again for tuning in.